All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope all of you guys had a great weekend and that you're having a nice start to your week. We went with Colin Cowherd last night, kind of bounced around the playoffs, and we spent, maybe 10, 15 minutes on Wolves Nuggets Game 4, but obviously we didn't get to get as much into the weeds as I like to. So we're going to go deep dive into Game 4 Wolves Nuggets. I also am going to I think I have 19 clips from that game as well. I'm also recording a mailbag today that's going to be uploaded during the day tomorrow, and then we're going live tonight after the final buzzer of Mavs Thunder Game 4. So lots of content coming out to start this week, starting today with just a deep dive into Wolves Nuggets Game 4, which is now 2-2 headed back for Game 5 in Denver. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. And then keep dropping mailbag questions in those YouTube comments so we can keep hitting them throughout the rest of the postseason. All right, let's talk some basketball. So out the gates, Wolves get off to a little bit of a lead. They go up 20-13 in the first quarter. Anthony Edwards specifically said after Game 3 that he didn't like his energy level to start that game and that he was going to bring it in Game 4. He absolutely did. He was magnificent in this game. We'll get to him in a little bit. But Denver tightened the screws defensively on everybody else, just like they did in Game 3, and every other Timberwolf fell apart. There was a 7-minute stretch spanning the first and second quarters where the Wolves only scored 4 points in 7 minutes. And during that time, Denver methodically executed on the other end, and they built a 15-point lead. That really, when you look at the scoring for Minnesota, they just don't have any reliable offensive players beyond Anthony Edwards. When I say reliable, I mean with like real playoff resilience, meaning like when people tighten the screws defensively, can you still get your game off? And just none of those guys can. Anthony Edwards gets 44 points on 25 shots. That's 1.76 points per shot attempt. Every other Timberwolf, 63 points on 57 shots. It's 1.11 points per shot attempt. Karl Towns, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Mike Conley, and Naz Reid, they combined to go 16 for 43. And those are your other four offensive threats. Those are the guys that you need to get some pop from, and they just didn't. And Denver did a masterful job guarding those guys, which we'll get into the specifics here in a little bit. But it was an offensive masterclass from the Denver Nuggets, led by Nikola Jokic. I thought it was his best game of the postseason so far. 15 for 26 from the field, 35 points, 7 assists. His touch was just ridiculously dialed in from short range. All those little hooks and floaters and turnaround jump shots. He was 10 for 15 on shot attempts that are between 5 feet and 14 feet from the rim. Remember, I refer to basketball as like a 4-level scoring sport, not a 3-level scoring sport. It's not just, mid-range threes in the rim. There's like a short range to me, which is like, it's like kind of like funky push shots, hook shots, floaters, all that kind of stuff, short jump shots. Those are typically a lot higher percentage than long twos, where you have a lot of the variance that you get from three-point shooting without the extra shot value, right? And so to me, it's important to kind of differentiate between those two. Jokic literally took 15 shots that would be considered mid-range by a lot of people, but they were all inside of 14 feet. So he's able to hit them at an absurdly high percentage. He hits them at literally 66%, goes 10 for 15. That's 20 points on 15 shots. That's 1.33 points per shot attempt, which is outstanding. And so again, that's where Jokic makes his money. And that's an excellent example of where, from the analytical approach, we have to kind of differentiate between different types of twos that aren't layups, because those are much higher percentage shots, especially for Nikola Jokic. Like if you want to sit there and be like, oh, Jokic got hot last night, it's like, not really. He's been shooting 66 to 70% on those shots forever, like extending deep into the regular season, multiple years now. So like, that's kind of just what he does. 3 back-to-back assists to end the first half that helped grow the lead. You guys remember the one where he kind of turned over his right shoulder and baited Gobert into coming over and help, and he flipped that little lefty flip of the wrist pass to Aaron Gordon for the dunk. He, very next possession, had a skip pass out of a double team on the right post, that a post up on the right elbow area that got KCP a wide open 3 on the left wing that he knocked down. And then on the push ahead dunk, the one that Michael Porter Jr. dunked before Jamal Murray hit the bomb, On that play, Jokic came up in a high drop coverage, got his hands dirty, disrupted the ball, forced a turnover, got down on the floor, got the ball, and somehow managed to gather it and get it up and throw a useful kick-ahead pass that Michael Porter Jr. was able to get to and dunk. Michael Porter Jr. dunked that with about 2 seconds left. So, like, if he had not gained control of the ball as quickly as he did, one, maybe someone is able to get back for the Timberwolves, and two, maybe the clock runs out, and then three, you certainly don't have time for the additional mistake that the Timberwolves made as Jaden McDaniels launched that full court pass that Jamal Murray stole and made the half court shot. So, like, I thought Nikola Jokic was unbelievable in this game, but that 3-play sequence at the end of the first half, which again, all other guys made shots, but he made a big defensive play and had 3 really nice passes that basically grew what was a close game into a 15-point game going into the half, completely changed the tone of the game. I had a lot of guys after game 3, a little bit last night as well on Twitter, that were like, "Oh, like you switched up on Jokic after the first 2 games." No, I didn't. I just held him to the standard that he deserves to be held to. He's the best player in the league. He's not only is he the best player in the league, he's a player that I have personally basically went out to say that I think he's a special player in the all-time sense, right? Like, I think that he has a bigger chasm between him and the second best player of the league than anybody since LeBron James in the early 2010s, right? I think that he has the chance to literally rip off a dynasty here. I view him as an all-time great in the making. He's already got 3 MVPs, which only 9 players have done in NBA history. And guess what? Jokic didn't do enough in the first 2 games. He didn't do enough, and his team got themselves into a really bad hole, a hole that only 5 teams in NBA history have clawed their way out of. And especially in game 2, when they were getting their ass kicked, Jokic was sloppy, had a lot of turnovers. He had, 11 turnovers in the first 6 quarters of the series, wasn't looking to score enough. He was passing out of single coverage in the post. Jokic wasn't playing well. On the defensive end of the floor, the first 6 games of this postseason, Jokic was abysmal defensively. And in game 3 and 4 in Minnesota, he looked like the Jokic that we saw in the playoffs last year, active in his drop coverage, up at the level, getting deflections, using his hands, using his IQ to blow up plays. Jokic was unbelievable in the last 2 games. And again, this is what I talked about after game 3. This is what I love about NBA history. A lot of times it requires a star to make some sort of mistake or to play some bad basketball to end up in a predicament. That predicament brings real adversity to the table. That real adversity pushes that basketball player to reach a level that we haven't seen before. And like, again, Jokic has had monster statistical games, but in terms of like just overall two-way dominance, last night was a special Jokic performance. It's one of the ones where if you were trying to describe to somebody what made Jokic such a great basketball player in his prime, I'd be like, go watch game 4 against the Timberwolves in the 2024 NBA playoffs in the second round. That's a game that you can watch and get a really good feel for what made Jokic amazing. It's one of his iconic games. It's one of the games that you're going to tell the story of Nikola Jokic's career about. And so again, he ran into his first real test. I shouldn't say real test because I thought last year was a test too, but I should say his first real significant adversity, and he's passed this test with flying colors. I thought he did an amazing job in game 3 of identifying that all of his teammates had it going and kind of functioning more as a cog in the system and not hijacking the offense. And then I thought in game 4, he was read the room and looked to be more aggressive as a scorer, which is what the team needed in that particular game. I thought he just did a masterful job the last 2 games of captaining the ship and leading his team to tying the series. And again, like, you guys have to understand, I am not a stan. I think stan behavior is bad for basketball. I think when there are fans who only focus on the positives with players and turn a blind eye to everything they ever do wrong, it poisons basketball discourse. That, like, I've told you guys this before, LeBron fans don't like me because even though I love LeBron, I'm willing to point out when he does things on the basketball court that hurt his team or when he makes mistakes. And again, I said this when I went on with Ethan Strauss, but like, criticism without praise is empty, but praise without criticism is empty as well. Like, I have to do both. I have to be objective and honest about what's happening, or nothing I say carries any weight. If I just pretend every Jokic bad game never happened, then when I say Jokic is amazing for XYZ, it carries no weight. You guys can know when you come to this show, if I say, Jokic did this well or Jokic did that well, I'm not just pandering. I'm not throwing propaganda out there. I'm saying it because I truly believe it. And yeah, like if Jokic had come into game 3 with another lackadaisical defensive effort and a lack of assertiveness on offense, and it carried over into game 4, and they dropped one of those games, and it was a 3-1 series, and they ended up losing the series in 5 or 6, he would have been deserving of the criticism that came from that. And so again, like it's just, this to me is part of the journey of being an all-time great. As soon as you enter into that echelon, you're no longer being compared to your NBA peers right now. Because that's what you'll see is you'll be like, well, he had this many points, he had this many rebounds, he had this many assists. It's like, yeah, well, I'm not talking about how he stacks up against other guys in this league. We're talking about how he stacks up against other players all time. Nikola Jokic has put himself into an entirely different stratosphere of NBA criticism. He is now being compared to the greats, and that comes with a level of expectation, and he didn't live up to that in the first 2 games of the series. He's more than lived up to that in the second 2 games of this series and has completely redeemed himself. Now he needs to close the deal, but he's done what he's needed to do to this point to right the ship, and now they're in a position in game 5 of the series 2-2 where he can give them a 3-2 lead and regain control of the series. Aaron Gordon, one of his best games of his career. Early defense on Karl-Anthony Towns, sliding his feet and absorbing contact, waiting for him to expose the ball. That was something he did not do very well in the first, especially in game 1. He was giving up driving lanes to Cat too easily. He's kind of dialed in his moves. He's absorbing that contact. He's too strong for Cat to bully. And then the thing with Cat is after he makes his bully ball moves, he always exposes the basketball. And that's where like smaller players can swipe down at it. That's where Aaron Gordon can swipe down at it. I thought he did a really good job early in the game of kind of sapping Cat of his confidence. There was that drive across the lane where he tried to go to a sweeping hook and Aaron Gordon swiped the ball out of his hands. Then he tried to post him up on the left block, and he tried to get to bully him, and Aaron Gordon just literally stood him up, and he had to go to a left shoulder hook over the top, and it was just like a really low percentage shot that didn't have much of a chance to go in. He was just really, really, really good defensively at the start of this game. They use him a lot with the ball in his hands in this game. Early on, just kind of this is something that is part of the versatility that Denver has, and it's an advantage. Like, okay, you've got these excellent perimeter defenders like Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker who are going to pick all these guys up full court, right? Well, we have a 4 and a 5 that can dribble. Jokic can dribble and Aaron Gordon can dribble. We forget Aaron Gordon, when he was in Orlando, was more or less functioning as a wing. Now, it turns out he's not good enough at that to do that as like his primary thing, but he does have a lot of those wing skills. And like he's identified with Denver where his supreme strengths are as an athlete around the rim, but he also has the ability to go to that when they need it in small doses. And like early on in game 3, they started doing this as well, but they just have Jokic and Gordon bring the ball up the floor. And that makes it so that Jamal Murray doesn't have to make 6 counter moves to get past Jaden McDaniels to get down the floor to run the offense. Jamal Murray can just run down the floor and then get into position and wait for whatever action they're going to run it and take off from there. But they also, because we know the second unit for Denver is typically a Jamal Murray-led unit. Like it's usually Jamal Murray coming up the floor, picking on a specific defender, through a switch, like a guard screen or some other screen to get a defender that he likes on him and him going one-on-one. That's not what happened last night. Aaron Gordon ran that unit and just immediately started working like inverted ball screens on the right wing to try to get switches to bully ball to the basket, attacking out of the post and drawing double teams and making kick out passes. Aaron Gordon was magnificent in that early second quarter run offensively as Denver started to pull away. And then Aaron Gordon's jump shooting has been a revelation. He was 5 for 5 last night on jump shots that were at least 10 feet away from the basket. He's at 1.17 points per jump shot in this postseason so far. That's amazing and like found money for this Denver Nuggets team. Jamal Murray, he only had 19 points, but I felt like every shot he hit was a massive momentum shot. That pullback dribble on Jaden McDaniels when he was pressuring him full court and the crowd was getting into it, hit that shot, kind of silenced the crowd. The half-court shot, that was a huge momentum play going into the half. And then right out of the third quarter locker room, he comes in and hits 3 jumpers, pull up 2, and then I think he hit 2 pull up 2s actually. But then he also hit 2 threes in that run that really helped kind of stiff arm Minnesota, because Minnesota came out and hit 3 early threes in that third quarter. If you don't get those shots from Jamal, very different game, right? So like only 19 points, but I thought he was deeply impactful. Had 8 assists in the game as well. And then the bench guys. Reggie Jackson comes in and hits 2 early threes again. It's funny, he hit those 2 shots, and I'm watching the game and I'm like, this is classic Reggie. Like, no one's expecting him to continue to score. Like, he had 0 in the second half. That was not a surprise. But like, he's pretty routinely come in for Denver in that first half and just hit a couple of big shots. And he hit 2 big threes early in this game that kind of provided a little bit of buffer. And then Justin Holiday came in, hit a couple of big ones. Christian Brown, some cuts to the basket, a big 3 above the break as well in the second half. It was just an absolute masterclass of offense from the Denver Nuggets against the best defense in the NBA. And the reality is, if they can score against these guys, it's only going to get easier from here. Boston has similar perimeter defense personnel, but they don't have nearly the front court a size and strength that Denver has. So like, it's going to be like, this was the big challenge for Denver, and they're passing it with flying colors right now. Again, I said this to Colin last night. It's not just that they're winning these games against Minnesota, they're winning handily and they're scoring easily. And that's really, really scary considering what we thought about this Minnesota defense. On the Timberwolves front, really, to me, last night was the strongest indicator. These 2 games are the strongest indicator of scoring resiliency. It's a concept that I talk about a lot on this show. Like, can you score is one thing. Can you score against an elite defense that is locked in, engaged, and desperate? That's an entirely different level. Do you have resiliency to score when things really get tight? And like, Anthony Edwards has passed that test with flying colors. I'm going to show you guys his efficiency chart from this postseason here in a minute, because he's just been absolutely amazing. But let's go to Karl-Anthony Towns first. He's an example, like many players. And by the way, when I say scoring resiliency, there's only a handful of guys in the league that really have that. Like, there might be, I'd have to really sit down and think about it, but there's like maybe 7 or 8 guys in the entire league that, like, when things really get tight, maintain their effectiveness offensively. It's like it is a really, really rare skill, and it's a testament to Anthony Edwards that he's kind of entered into that echelon of players. So with Karl-Anthony Towns, the main issue with him, and I talked about this a little bit with Colin Cowherd last night, he represents an archetype of player. It's like a hybrid big, where it's like they're like a center, but they're not big enough or athletic enough to like really anchor a defense the way that, you know, some of the better defensive centers can. But they're like offensive minded. They've got a little bit of dribble ability, a little bit of passing ability, and they usually can shoot the ball really well, right? Like Karl-Anthony Towns falls into this category. The guy that I thought of and pointed out last night is like Kevin Love. He's a guy that like would put up big numbers in the regular season, big, strong forward who could attack mismatches in the post and could operate out beyond the 3-point line. It was kind of an iffy defensive anchor, right? Well, what ends up happening with those guys is they eventually run into a front court athlete in the postseason who's big and strong enough to avoid their bully ball tactics, fast enough to beat them to spots, and it basically turn them into over-the-top shot makers. And it's just difficult to rely on that if you don't have another part to your game. And that's the thing. Like, I'm going to show you guys a couple of clips. It's just like KCP and Aaron Gordon in the opening quarter had like 3 possessions where Cat tried to bully them and he just couldn't. And then he just would eventually expose the basketball, and then they'd swipe down and knock it out of his hands. And it's like, unless he's just hitting threes at a high clip, and again, like, you can pressure that, you can close out and take him off the line, right? But like, as soon as you kind of up the defensive intensity and tighten the screws and take away some of the easy stuff for a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns, all of a sudden he really, really struggles to score. And that's the thing. Like, Minnesota has 5 offensive players, and it's like Conley kind of lacks aggression and isn't a great athlete, right? Nikhil Alexander-Walker, streaky. Naz Reid, streaky. And then Karl-Anthony Towns is like a second star that like really needs favorable conditions for him to be a good scorer. And Aaron Gordon is just a matchup that can really, really cause some problems for him. But they're not going to win another game in this series unless they get offensive support for Anthony Edwards. And also in addition to that, Ant's hitting a lot of jump shots in this series, which I think is real. I mean, we're 8 games into this, and he's still hitting. But at the same time, like if he has a cold jump shooting game, you could be really screwed. So like they desperately need someone to step up and help. Before we get to the film, I wanted to show you guys the Anthony Edwards shot making chart. So this is from Synergy. This is Anthony Edwards shot making chart from this postseason run. So as you can see, it breaks down to jump shooting and it breaks down to catch and shoot, guarded, unguarded, dribble, jump shots. Early jumpers are like jabs. So like when you catch and you don't put the ball on the floor, but you like face up, it's like, think of them as like a face up jump shot, right? Runners are floaters, hooks are self-explanatory. And then at the rim, you can't see it because of my my little window here, but it's layups and then dunks. So he's shooting 48% on jump shots in total, amounting to 1.23 points per jump shot because he's shooting 62% when you weight it for threes. He's shooting 56% on catch and shoot jump shots, 84% weighted for threes. He's shooting on dribble jump shots, so pull-up jump shots off the dribble, 46% overall, 57% weighted for threes, 1.14 points per shot. That's amazing. He's 4 for 8 on face-up jumpers, 4 for 8 on floaters, and then he's 33 for 48 on layups. That's 69%. That's awesome for a guard. And then he's 7 for 8 on dunks. So, like, he's just at every single phase of offense right now, putting together some really, really impressive shot making. And again, like, no matter what happens the rest of the series, and I said after game 2 that the series wasn't over, but that I expected Minnesota to win. That's just based on statistics. NBA history tells us that when you're the home team and you drop the first 2 games at home, you're most likely going to lose. I want to say that I can't remember the exact number, but Minnesota turned into a heavy favorite in Vegas after winning the first 2 games. As a matter of fact, after game 3, when Denver dominated them and it was 2-1, Minnesota was still like a minus 210 favorite on DraftKings, if I remember correctly. So like, it's just statistically really, really hard to do it. But the hardest part was winning those 2 games in Minnesota. Now they have. And so now I do believe Denver is going to win the series. I believe they'll go home and get game 5. And then I think they'll go into Minnesota and get game 6. I think they've solved Minnesota's offense. I think Minnesota can't score with these guys. I think they've also solved their defense. They figured out how to get comfortable against them. That's a death sentence. It's a big problem that Ant can go for 44 on your home court in a far more intense defensive effort on your part, and you still never really threatened to win that game. You didn't just lose you lost 2 convincingly, and it looked ugly at times. And it's trending in the wrong direction for you in a lot of ways, and so I do think Denver is going to pull this one out. The NBA playoffs are heating up, and so is the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. With same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more, don't miss out as the NBA postseason winds down. So, lots of great odds for the second round. If you still think the Nuggets are going to come back and beat the Timberwolves, you can get them right now at plus 105. Thunder Mavs starts here shortly. And if you like the Mavs to win that series, you can get them at minus 105. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 to get 150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. That's code HOOPS for new customers to get 150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, let's get to some film. Okay, so I actually didn't get to this on the in the podcast portion of the video, but one of the things that I noticed on film, Nikola Jokic, part of the reason why he was 10 for 15 in this, a range between 5 and 14 feet from the basket, was he was catching on the roll too easily. And a lot of this was just really bad decisions from Karl-Anthony Towns. So here we go, a standard 2-man game. There's no complication. There's no ram screen. There's no, double drag. There's no any sort of complication to make this. This is just a basic 2-man game, right? Jaden McDaniels does a nice job getting his left arm over to chase over the top. He's attached. Jaden McDaniels is attached, and for some reason, Karl Towns is fully committed. If he just stays back into this area, he can make this pocket pass significantly tougher. And then not only do you have more help on the backside here, but Jaden's attached. He's going to be able to continue to funnel Jamal Murray, but instead he way over commits to the ball handler, which leaves the easy pass into the pocket. And then Jokic is just going to hit this floater. And again, this was an adjustment. If you guys remember in game 1, when I talked about the film session, Rudy was doing a lot of this stunting where he'd stunt. See, bam, it's like a fake. He's doing that on purpose to try to bait Jokic into the lob. And early in the series, he was falling for that bait and he was throwing that pass, even though the shot was there. Not anymore. Jokic is looking to score now, takes the floater, and knocks it down. So again, Karl Towns, not a very good pick and roll defense game from him, allowing these catches in the mid-range way too easily, and then Jokic looking to be more aggressive as a scorer. This was an example of what I was talking about in the podcast portion. Don't even have Jamal Murray bring the ball up the floor against ball pressure. Just have Jokic bring the ball up the floor. That way you don't have to worry about your guards getting tired out. Now you can execute your offense from there. Also, this was a nice little driving kick from KCP to get an open three in the corner for Aaron Gordon. I thought there was a little bit of an overhelp too. Like, once again, Jaden McDaniels has this contained. If KCP is going to try a really difficult shot here, I understand you're like, I want to help off of Aaron Gordon, so I kind of can live with this. But there were a lot of overhelp situations for Minnesota last night. And also, as I told you guys in the regular season, Aaron Gordon in the regular season, by the way, he's knocking everything down in the postseason. 1.17 points per jump shot. But in the regular season, he was cold from out here. He was cold in the mid-range, but he was really good out of the right corner. That was the one spot where Aaron Gordon really liked to shoot. So from a game plan perspective, if you're going to stay home on Aaron Gordon anywhere, it would be there. All right. This was just a really good defensive possession from Denver that I wanted to call out, guarding stack pick and roll from Minnesota. So remember, stack pick and roll, the way it works is it's just a ball screen, but on the ball screen, Anthony Edwards is going to look to back screen Jokic to kind of open up the lob, right? So it goes to do that, but as KCP chases over the top of the screen and stays attached, okay? So he's done his job. This is good back pressure. He's done it. He's made it so that Mike Conley basically can't shoot a pull-up jumper because KCP would block that, right? Jokic is in his high drop, but he's not too high. He's in a position where he can help corral but not overcommit, right? Aaron Gordon is guarding Anthony Edwards. One of the things, too, because Jokic comes all the way out, it makes that back screen that Ant's setting not super effective, right? Because Ant's trying to back screen this for the stack pick and roll action, right? Gobert's rolling. Look at Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is tagging the roller. So if Mike Conley tries to throw a lob, Jamal's in position to effectively box Rudy Gobert out. And then if Mike Conley wants to throw the skip pass to Jaden McDaniels, look at KCP's arms. He's got active hands, and Jokic is up there too with the ability to throw his hands up if a pass tries to be made, right? So everyone did their job here. KCP chased over the top. Nice high drop from Jokic. Gordon staying attached to Anthony Edwards so he doesn't break open. Jamal Murray tags the roller. Now watch the recovery. Kick back pass to Ant. Jamal recovers. Now we reset, right? Really, really well defended possession from Denver against the stack pick and roll. And then really nice timing on the pull-up jumper from Aaron Gordon. All right. Next clip. This is one of the defensive possessions that KCP had on Karl-Anthony Towns. So a little bit of a transition cross match, right? Guys they end up switching the screen. Cat tries to go to work on KCP. And again, it's the exact same thing I was talking about in the podcast format at the beginning. Watch when Cat takes the aggressive move. Elite defender beats him to the spot, absorbs the contact. Boom. Okay. Now he's going to make another move, absorb the contact, beat him to the spot, absorb the contact, wait for him to expose the basketball, swipe down at it. Boom, right there. And he actually goes after it twice. So again, let's watch it again. Slide feet, absorb contact, beat him to the spot again, absorb contact, expose, swipe, expose again, swipe. Beautiful defense from Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. This is just a clip I threw in there to shout out Anthony Edwards because this was a good defensive possession. Again, Jokic really active in his high drop, but Ant is just such a transcendent athlete that Jokic is literally going hard off to the right to try to cut off this driving lane, and Ant still just goes right around him. He just is a truly transcendently great athlete. Hard foul there from Jamal. All right. More using Aaron Gordon to beat ball pressure. So notice Aaron Gordon is dribbling this ball up the court. No reason to have any of your guards face ball pressure. Now, ironically, Anthony Edwards is picking up the ball here, but and I actually saw a lot of this in the second half over the course of this game from Minnesota. When Denver was having their bigs bring the ball up the floor, sometimes they would just have Jaden McDaniels or Anthony Edwards apply ball pressure anyway, essentially conceding a switch so they can continue to pressure the ball. But as long as these guys handle it, it's not just about, because Gordon has to make a lot of counter moves here to get past Ant, and it takes a lot of time off the shot clock, but more importantly, he saves legs. It saves Jamal's legs so that Jamal can focus on knocking down shots, although Jamal's not even in the game at this point. But you guys get the point. These guys eating up ball pressure, it's like eating innings. It saves wear and tear on the guards. And even more interesting, they ran a lot of action through Gordon, a lot of it in the bench unit, but they did it with Jokic on the floor as well. Like Aaron Gordon's going to get this ball on the dribble handoff here. And he's actually acting as the ball handler in the offense, hits Anthony Edwards with a nice spin move and scores. I talked about before the series that I thought for small doses, they'd try Aaron Gordon on Anthony Edwards to try to match up better with his athleticism and strength because KCP is a little too small for him. And at the late first quarter stretch of this game and a few other stretches of the series as well, Michael Malone has gone to Gordon as basically just a change up on Ant. And I think for the most part, Gordon's done a good job here. Look at the screen navigation. Fights through this one, fights through another one, gets back in front of him, closes him off, and basically shuts the action down. Really good stuff from Aaron Gordon. Another, don't ever expose the basketball against KCP. That one ended up being, that one was called a foul, but he wanted a challenge. Do you guys love rooting for KCP? I rooted for him when he was on the 2020 Lakers. He was one of my favorite players. Let's see. This is one of those big early shots that Reggie Jackson hit. Like I said, after he hit these two shots, I was like, I'm not expecting any more from him this game, but it just seems like in every big game, Reggie hit a couple of big early jumpers. This is a bad shot from Cat. Like every poor shooting night seems to have plays like this in it, where it's like, yeah, you're missing, but it's like you're forcing the action and not being patient about getting great shots. So Cat's going to kind of set a little ghost screen, and Denver's going to switch it. I shouldn't even say it's a ghost screen; it's a real screen. But he slips out of it to the 3-point line. There's 12 on the shot clock, and KCP's there. And Cat just turns and shoots, and he's 3 solid feet behind the line. So that's like a 26-footer that's contested early in the clock. Like those are not the shots that are going to get you into rhythm. All right, next one. Here's that first of 2 possessions early in the game where Aaron Gordon really kind of ate Cat's lunch and kind of changed the dynamic mentally for him. So look at this again. It has him on an. Notice the initial physicality, reaching in, hand on the back, making him uncomfortable. I want to go to slow motion here. So again, watch. Cat tries to bully him. Aaron Gordon beat him to the spot, absorb contact, turns his back. Makes him lose control of the basketball. Look at the pressures. He just no relenting, sliding his feet, absorbing contact. Oh, you expose the basketball. I'm going to rewind a little bit. Everyone just waits. Absorb contact, wait for Cat to expose the basketball. You can see as he makes this move, watch as soon as he exposes it. It's hidden, and then right there, boom, Gordon gets it. Beautiful, beautiful defense from Aaron Gordon on Karl-Anthony Towns. Alrighty. This was the second big shot that Reggie Jackson hit as we go down to the other end. So I have a little basic double team of Gordon, little windshield wiper rotation, and it falls apart. So again, when you have windshield wiper rotation, so if Ant's going to go, Conley's got to go, and then Nickeil Alexander-Walker's got to go. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker was slow and just didn't make the rotation, so Reggie gets a good look. Second big 3 that he hits in the first half. Here's the other Aaron Gordon possession against Karl-Anthony Towns. So Cat knows he can't expose the basketball, so he's going to go for more of a back to the basket approach. But watch Aaron Gordon just eat up the contact. It's like, I'm going to bully you. Nope. Going to bully you again. Nope. It's going to be a really tough hook shot over the top. So Gordon made it very clear to Cat at the beginning of this game, you cannot score on me one-on-one. You cannot score on me one-on-one, so you better try some other shit. Huge shot from Justin Holiday here to start the second quarter. Little two-man game. Justin Holiday comes off a little screen from Aaron Gordon, knocks it down. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Justin Holiday shooting like a preposterously high percentage in this postseason run. This is where Aaron Gordon was running the bench unit, which I thought was really fascinating. So again, these early second quarter, early fourth quarter units are typically this kind of construction, but it's usually Jamal operating with the ball a lot. But again, it kind of started from Aaron Gordon, like we talked about earlier, eating up the ball pressure so Jamal doesn't have to. It's like Jamal can rest rather than trying to make 17 counter moves against Jaden McDaniels to get up the floor. So what they're going to do here is they're going to run a guard screen to get Kyle Anderson off of Gordon. They just easily switch it the first time. Aaron Gordon waves Jamal Murray through. Now he wants to attack out of the post, just quick bully ball. Nice slot cut there from Christian Braun. So watch Christian Braun read Naz Reid. As soon as Naz Reid goes, Braun cuts, finds that little soft spot, pound dribble, patiently finds a little gap in the defense to score on the cut. Beautiful feed from Aaron Gordon. So again, like Aaron Gordon, I think, was actually just starting as the guy eating up the ball pressure, but then he just ended up making play after play after play, so they just kept going through it. Very next possession, Aaron Gordon goes to work again. This time it's a wide pin down. So like notice the original matchups are Aaron Gordon on Kyle Anderson on Aaron Gordon, Nickeil Alexander-Walker on Michael Porter Jr. So they're going to run this little wide pin down to get the switch. They concede the switch. Now we're going to the block. And on this one, again, Naz Reid is already fully committed. Naz Reid is basically zoning up underneath the basket, right? So that makes it so that Mike Conley is more tracking Christian Braun cutting along the baseline. So Justin Holiday makes a really nice read and slides up and creates, because this is the passing window, right? So like if Justin Holiday stays in the corner, he can't really hit him, but he tries to kind of locate a little spot there. And again, as he hops into the lane, notice how Conley has his right hand. His job here, anytime Naz Reid is helping on this post up, Conley's job is to watch that baseline cut from Christian Braun. So as Justin Holiday slides up there, the window is easy for Aaron Gordon to make the pass. And this is a big part of like passing location and passing accuracy is super important, because Conley throws a really nice closeout here. But look at where the pass is. The pass literally hits Justin Holiday directly in his shooting pocket, so that when Conley closes out, even though he's there, Justin's just in full rhythm. So like watch where this pass is. He can go right up off the catch. There's no delay. And that makes it so that Conley's closeout is effectively useless. So Gordon has run the offense 2 possessions in a row and gotten great looks. How about a third possession in a row? Exact same thing they were doing earlier. Gordon's eating up the ball pressure. We have this backcourt screen here from Justin Holiday to try to get the same switch onto Conley that they just had. But Kyle Anderson fights through this time. And Aaron Gordon just goes, I can score on Kyle Anderson too. And so he just bullies him to the basket. At this point, he's confident, right? He's got his confidence because he's been picking Minnesota apart over the course of the last few possessions. Beautiful work from Aaron Gordon in that second unit. All right, last bit of the video. We're going to look at the final 3 assists that Nikola Jokic had that changed the dynamic of the game going into the half. So all 3 of these assists came in the final 3:47 of the half. It's going to start with a regular post up here of Gobert. He's going to wave Gordon through into the dunker spot. He's going to go to work. There's a really interesting thing that stands out right away. You can tell Ant is tired because Ant's the guy who botches the rotation here. Look at Ant, hands on his hips. He's tired. Now, as Jokic starts to work his way down, when he pivots over that right shoulder and he goes like a fake, he fakes back to the middle and then over. But watch as he turns, right? As he turns, both Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert commit. And just like we were talking about with Conley on Christian Brown along the baseline, this is Anthony Edwards' responsibility. Ant needs to be down here in position to take away this cut and then close out on KCP if necessary. Because again, a dunk is 2 points per possession every single time. A corner three for KCP might be 1.15 points per possession. So you got to play the math there, right? So as Jokic pivots, watch Ant. He's way too late and he should have seen this whole thing developing the whole time. Like if you watch as he's working here, Ant's just too relaxed and kind of just glued to the floor. And so when he actually finally diagnoses what happened, that little flip of the wrist, he's too late to actually get there and dissuade. So Gordon ends up finishing over the top. And look, Ant's athletic enough to bother that. He just was too late. And after the game kind of talked about that, if you remember in the post-game presser, he specifically said, like, he just makes you pay every time you make a mistake. And he made a mistake on that one. All right, so that was assist number 1. Now we fast forward to the end of the second half where he gets the last 2. Straight post up a Gobert. Finally get the ball in. Let's see what kind of develops here. This was a really interesting one because there's only 4 seconds on the shot clock. And if you guys look, Anthony Edwards is in kind of like a soft help, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker is prepared to rotate. And Jaden McDaniels is more, we've seen this cut a million times before, right? Denver does this where Jamal Murray will like cut off of that second, the first pass away, he'll just like cut down the lane to try to like take advantage of these guys being more focused on rotating out to 3-point shooters. But we'll look at this pass. So Jamal cuts. On the cut, Jaden McDaniels kind of shows in the lane to stop this Jamal Murray cut. Nikola Jokic immediately sees it and throws a perfect skip pass. Once again, right into the shooting pocket so that KCP can elevate quickly over the late closeout from Jaden McDaniels. Just a beautiful pass, beautiful manipulation of the defense, really smart cut from Jamal Murray to get him open. Then lastly, this one I thought was kind of underrated and lost in the shuffle. 10 seconds left, 10-point game. If Denver doesn't play good defense here and Minnesota scores, you go into the half only up by 8. You go into the half up 15 because you get a steal, a kick-ahead dunk, and then another steal in the half-court shot. That all is started by this level of the screen defense from Jokic here. Now, remember, this was a play where earlier I showed you a play where Ant beat him around. This is not an easy job to do, but he gets in and kind of baits Ant into trying to switch, and Ant tries a really complicated dribble move in traffic. Again, because Jokic did his job. In this high drop, he's trying to stop him from turning the corner, right? And so he's in position outside of Ant's left shoulder, so he has to counter back to the right. Goes to a really difficult dribble move in traffic, and that's just really difficult to do when you're completely surrounded by defensive players. He ends up losing control of the basketball. So that's step 1. Now it's a loose ball. But look at the clock. We have a loose ball. All 5 players inside the 3-point line for Denver with less than 7 seconds on the clock. Watch what happens. Gobert is in position to get this ball. But nope, Jokic gets it instead. So Jokic beats him to a 50-50 ball. Look at Michael Porter Jr. immediately identify what's happening. Michael Porter Jr. goes, oh, we got a shot here. No one even has the ball yet. MPJ's like, I got this. I'm running. Jokic, now he's in traffic, right? So Jokic has the ball, but he's got to get a pass out to Michael Porter Jr. in time. There's pressure from Ant up front, and he just kind of gets it up over the top of the little flip of the wrist, just barely gets out there far enough for MPJ to get it. Again, look at the clock. He finishes this dunk with 1.6 on the clock. So, like, any delay there, if Rudy Gobert gets a hand on the basketball and disrupts Jokic picking it up, somebody pressures Jokic in the backcourt, causes him to have a problem throwing that kick-ahead pass, literally anything probably turns that into we're going into the half as a 10-point game. But instead, Jokic does beat everybody to the ball. Michael Porter Jr. does make the read to beat everybody down the floor. Jokic does make the kick-ahead pass. They get the dunk, and we get the turnover immediately after. That leads to the Jamal Murray the bomb to end the half. So really, really impressive stretch there from Nikola Jokic to end the half. All right, guys. That's all I have for this particular video. Like I said, I'm recording a mailbag that's going to go up tomorrow morning. I'm also going live tonight after the final buzzer of Mavs Thunder. I will see you guys then.